welcome to the new edition of our show, Money Means Business. As we always say, business means money, stability, and lots more, actually. Money means business. But that is also, we've seen in the last couple of years other instances, such as the COVID-19, that affected all economies of the world, affected negatively all the economies of the world. Others are just striving so hard, like our economy, that is burgeoning economy and coming out of very hard times, trying to get better and bloom under very hard circumstances. Well, there are two main topics that we'd like to discuss tonight. Mainly, the visit of President Sisi to France and Libya, the conference on Libya, and that came actually according to an invitation by French President Emmanuel Macron. And the second topic I'd like to talk about is the Central Bank of Egypt that during a meeting on October 26 actually regulated or approved the rules regulating the services of instant payments network inside Egypt. What's going on, the implications of that on both issues. That is what we're going to be talking about with our guest and expert, and Mr. Hany Aboul Fotouh, who is actually an economic and finance, you're an expert, and of course you analyze, all that for us. Welcome, sir, with us.
Welcome.
Always
Hello.
a pleasure having you.
Pleasure is mine.
Well, we're going for a short break, actually, with a few moments, and we come back to start our talk. So stay tuned to us, don't go away.
The Egyptian-French relations are strong and well established, and they are witnessing during the current period a huge and great boom on all political, economic, and military levels. The relations between the two friendly countries are witnessing a state of momentum that started since President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's visit to Paris last December, followed by another visit last May, in addition to the continuous and permanent communication between President el-Sisi and Emmanuel Macron, and the joint coordination in various files. The Egyptian-French relations are based on historical, civilizational, and cultural foundations. The scientific mission that accompanied the French campaign in Egypt took the lead in deciphering the Rosetta Stone and reading the ancient Egyptian language, which contributed to getting to know the civilization of the pharaohs and understanding the writings they left on the walls of temples and on the obelisks. And the missions of Egyptian students to France formed an important pillar in building the modern state during the era of Muhammad Ali and his successors. The strong relations between the two countries helped create a common understanding of many international and regional issues, foremost of which is the Libyan file, the holding of elections on December 24th, the necessity of the exit of foreign forces, militants, and mercenaries, the unification of the military institution, a political settlement, and an agreement that fulfills the demands of the brotherly Libyan people. On the level of distinguished relations between the two countries, France witnessed a few weeks ago an important visit by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and a large number of ministers in the two countries, which reflects the level of relations. The Egyptian ambassador to France added that the Prime Minister's visit came to follow up on the files of bilateral cooperation between the two countries, in addition to signing a declaration of intent to cooperate in a new field related to strengthening cooperation in the field of artificial intelligence, as Egypt seeks to benefit from French expertise in this field. He added that the visit witnessed many meetings of Dr. Mustafa Madbouli with senior French officials led by French Prime Minister and a large number of French companies, investment funds, private banks, and the Minister of Economy and Finance. Ambassador Alain Youssef referred to the important visit of the French Minister of Economy and Finance to Cairo last June, which witnessed the signing of the largest government financing package offered by France to any country in the world to support development projects in Egypt. Ambassador Alain Youssef said that the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development issued several very positive reports on economic developments in Egypt and how Egypt achieved positive rates of economic growth despite the corona pandemic. Military cooperation between Cairo and Paris dates back to the 80s, beginning with the Mirage and Alpha Jet deals. This cooperation is a locomotive for bilateral relations between the two countries and one of the main axes on which Egyptian-French relations are based. Paris is among the main partners that Egypt deals with in the field of armaments in recent years, as there is the first Rafale aircraft deal that was signed between the two countries in 2016 and the second Rafale deal that was signed several months ago and represents a new step in strengthening relations, in addition to the presence of permanent coordination and cooperation between the armed forces of the two countries. In terms of economic relations, France is a very important economic partner for Egypt, and Egypt is more interesting for French companies, and it has recently strengthened, especially during the era of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the French economic presence in Egypt, thanks to the agreements concluded between the two sides and the volume of French investments in Egypt. France represents a very important economic partner for Egypt, as trade exchanges between France and Egypt during the first 9 months of this year amounted to about $1.831 billion. The most important Egyptian exports to the French market include vegetables, plants, edible roots, fruits, citrus fruits, fertilizers, essential oils, crochet work, clothing, textiles, aluminium, and some machines, appliances, and electrical equipment. The most important Egyptian imports from the French market included grains, organic chemical products, and pharmaceutical products, as well as essential oils, various chemical products, aluminium and its products, nuclear reactors, electrical machines, equipment, tools, and optical devices. Egypt and France have maintained distinguished relations in the modern era at all levels and in various political, economic, cultural, educational, and other fields.
And we're back again to Money Means Business with our guest, Mr. Hany Fotouh, economic analyst, and also we'll talk a lot about, the subjects we're talking about. First, the very important first subject that we'd like to talk about is the visit of His Excellency President Sisi to France this time, according to an invitation by His Excellency French President Emmanuel Macron to the conference on Libya, since we're having soon, a month later, the coming month, elections there. So it's a very important timing. But again, how do you see the visit of President Sisi? He is taking part in participation in this conference, the implications, and how do you see the whole thing?
Well, let me first start with a focus on the relationship between Egypt and France, which spanned from Middle Ages until today. In fact, the distinguished relationship marks the stance of Egypt towards France and other countries which are considered as alliance to each other. And perhaps the most important implications of this visit and the most important item on the agenda is unifying the efforts to fight terrorism. And particularly, as you mentioned, the general election is nearing. It is scheduled to be held on 24th December. And both the Egyptian side and the French side are very keen. They would like to ensure that the election is held successfully on time. This visit also marks the relationship, the strong economic relationship between Egypt and France. And of course, on the agenda, there will be several files, including the economic file, how to boost the economic relations between the two sides. The President will meet with several world leaders in order to discuss how to boost the bilateral relationship between the countries, with these countries, with Egypt. Of course, these are perhaps the most items of the agenda, and I can say again, it's perhaps the on top of the agenda would be the elections, general elections in Libya, and how to restore the security and stability in the neighboring country.
Yeah. Well, you know, we talked about the most important issues to be discussed during this conference. And, well, they were discussed, I mean, but also the timing of this conference. Is it, you know, just directly related to the elections that will take place a month from now?
I would say yes. The timing has a very important bearing during this visit, because if the election goes well, everything will gradually go well in Libya, and rebuilding Libya again and investing in Libya would be a mega, I would say, projects would benefit all countries, not only Egypt, but also other countries who would find the opportunity to go to Libya and to participate in the reconstruction of Libya after several years of wars and destructions, leaving the country in devastated status and poor infrastructure resulting from the war. Of course, an important issue here also is ensuring that the foreign militias and troops, that they should go out of Libya, because if they stay in Libya, instability, they would cause a status of instability.
They're even aggravated. Exactly. This is also what President Sisi said, you know, before. It's like no intervention, the sovereignty. We should preserve the sovereignty of Libya, and no intervention from foreign forces or foreign powers, actually.
Yes, indeed. That's a very important issue here to ensure that all foreign militias they exit Libya and no foreign interference to happen again.
However, it's like a cake that everybody right now is taking part. Reconstruction would be, a great opportunity, actually, like for every country to like investing in a place and just getting well, something out of it. So it's in a timing like this, I think it's very important for all powers that are participating just to have well, the presence there.
Of course, as you said, it's a cake, and many countries are focusing and
Coveting,
putting,
actually a big part
focusing
of it.
their bad eyes, I would say,
Exactly.
on the treasures of Libya. Libya has always been a rich company with its resources, but particularly oil, and it's oil producing country, and they have huge reserves of oil and still to be utilized. So it's in the benefit of the entire world that security and stability to be restored as soon as possible, and the first step towards ensuring the stability is to have the elections held on time.
Definitely, definitely. Also, you talked about the relationship between France and Egypt. How significant are the relationship between both countries? Of course, Egypt was invited to participate in the conference. There is a lot of work that can be done between both countries, but well, looking and evaluating the relationship and economic, especially since we were talking about the economic relationship between both countries, how is the participation of France in investment in Egypt, in the economy of Egypt as a power, European power?
Well, in fact, France is a strategic partner, trade partner with Egypt, and this distinguished relationship has been translated into something tangible, which is the trade exchange, which amounted to $3 billion in year 2020, up to 20% from year 2019. Saying that Egypt is the major recipient of French investments. We have in Egypt here nearly 165 French companies operating in different sectors, including pharmaceutical, roads and transport, and these 165 companies generate nearly 38,000 jobs for Egyptian people. So this comes all together to indicate or illustrate that how strong is the French relationship, the economic relationship with Egypt. Maybe the whole in the gross investment of the French side is estimated at 5.7 billion euros, which is a huge amount, and Egypt actually aspires to increase these investments by at least another 20% in future. So the investments, the direct foreign direct investment coming from the French side, in fact, it was deteriorating at a point of time, but now we started to see more inflow. In order to answer this question more adequately, I need to read out some figures about the economic relationship with France. For example, the figures from January to September of the following indicators indicate that the bilateral trade between the two countries during the first 9 months of this year amounted to $1.83 billion. The Egyptian export during this period, the 9 months period from January to September, amounted to $412 million, while it was $654 million during 2019. As to the Egyptian imports from France, this figure reached $1.23 billion as compared to $1.74 billion in year 2019. Also, the incoming foreign investments, I mean the receipts from France, also amounted to $448 million, while the total outgoing investments, which are the payments to the French side, amounted to $1.31 billion. And finally, the Egyptians, the expats living in France, they also generate money transfer to the country, and this is translated in figures as $112 million last year.
And also talking about that, how can we maximize the economic relations and the investments of France in Egypt here, as since things are getting better and the relationship, the economic relationships of course, and political are just developing even more.
Egypt has signed several bilateral agreements and memorandum of understanding with France during the last few years, and the only way to grow or to strengthen the economic relationship and investments, particularly, is for the two sides to meet each other more frequently, whether on official side or for the business people side, like knocking door trips to explore what does the French side need, okay, and explore the opportunities for similarly the French side would be invited here to Egypt or even in exhibitions to see and explore the opportunities to take part in the projects, particularly the mega projects which are being executed, and of course in future they will continue for some while. So the only way is to more exposure, more exchange of visits between the two sides in order to boost such economic relationship and ensure more investments come from the French side.
Definitely. Also, talking about Egypt and France, France actually, gets a lot, exports a lot of perfumes, a lot of cosmetics, that are just, of course, the French perfumes that are renowned worldwide, and the exports of that even surpass the exports of weapons and weaponry and stuff like that. That is really a great asset and great products that they export. What do we have? Of course, we have a lot in Egypt, but how, like France, things some people might think, well, la mode de Paris, and the perfumes and all are being exported, and they generate a lot of money more than other things. This is, some people might think, well, like perfumes, but they generate a lot more. What do we have here that can really, we can maximize and optimize our interest in and export that can generate a lot more than other things?
In fact, Egypt is drawing on the expertise of France on many sectors, like the ready-made garments, textiles, the tourism, the auto industry. These areas that Egypt needs more expertise from the French sides, and we, as I have read today on the website of the French Chamber of Commerce, we have sectors that are very attractive to
Need to be more
the
developed,
French
maybe.
investors.
Yes, yes.
In several industries and services.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned correctly, the fashion.
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
why not a major fashion or a brand opens its outlet in Egypt?
Yeah.
Okay, of course they need some incentives. It could be tax incentive,
Yeah.
it could be customs incentives, but the opportunity is there. Egypt is a huge country, population
Yeah.
is more than 100 million citizens. So the demand, the purchasing power and the demand is huge, and it's an opportunity, particularly with the new investment law and with the new infrastructure on all ways, in being it in transportation and in communication, in any way. That is an attractive issue for investors. So we need the expertise of the French side. We have the what makes the investors more enthusiastic to explore the opportunities in Egypt.
Definitely. Well, we'll go for a short break with a report, after which we'll be coming back talking about the central bank, our second half of this episode, and the new regulations.
In a week full of important economic events for Egypt, the Saudi Ministry of Finance announced that it recently provided a deposit of $3 billion to the Central Bank of Egypt, in addition to extending previous deposits of $2.3 billion. The Saudi Finance indicated in a statement that the kingdom is using the available tools to provide full support with sister Egypt to deal with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, including supporting liquidity from foreign exchange. The ministry stated that these external facilities, totaling $9.5 billion, are equivalent to about 70% of the special drawing rights that were recently allocated to the kingdom from the International Monetary Fund. On the other hand, the central bank announced the rules governing the services of the instant payment network inside Egypt, explaining that the adoption of these rules comes within the framework of implementing the transformation strategy for the digital economy and providing new services that would facilitate citizens in carrying out financial transactions. For his part, Rami Aboul, deputy governor of the central bank, said that the rules adopted by the bank are aimed at facilitating citizens and encouraging them to continue using electronic payment methods, which supports the state's tendency to transform into a society less dependent on banknotes. For her part, Amani Shamsuddin, senior undersecretary of the Central Bank of Egypt, explained that the new rules will allow approved mobile phone applications to provide payment services through the payments network and provide instant transfer services through it, which helps to attract new customers to the banking sector and provide banking services in an advanced manner while ensuring safety, complete for all transactions. For his part, Ihab Nasr, deputy governor of the central bank's assistant governor for banking operations and payment systems, confirmed that the new rules will enable customers to manage all their bank accounts and complete transfers with any bank through a single application. An official source in the Central Bank of Egypt also revealed the fate of the traditional paper money of the 10 and 20 pound denominations, as he confirmed that the new plastic money made of polymer material will not be replaced by the old money circulating in the local market, but rather they will be traded together in the markets after putting their made money of polymer material. He said everything that is being raised about the issue of withdrawing the 10 and 20 pound notes from the local market in preparation for their replacement with the 10 pounds of plastic, the polymer is incorrect and aims to confuse the market.
Welcome back again to My Name is Business with our guest, Mr. Hany Fotouh. And we are tackling right now the central bank, and in their own meeting on the 26th of October, they decided, they approved rules regulating the payments, the services of instant payments network inside Egypt, and a lot of questions, of course, related to that. We need to know more about it, so if you please shed more light on the that payment network.
Well, the decision of the Central Bank of Egypt that was passed last week relates to the instructions or the guidelines for bank and bank and financial service providers on the instant payment system. It's one of its kind. It's the first time to be implemented in Egypt.
What is it about?
It's really about making the transfers credited or debited to the accounts instantly, 24 hours a day, including weekends.
Yeah.
This is, in fact, it comes alongside or within the framework of the National Payment Council, headed by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, in order to cope with the international standards on money transfers and settlements. In fact, this would also help Egypt to go more progressively for the transformation to the digital economy, and offering the Egyptian citizens new ways and channels for financial services, which equals the same standards of services being implemented or offered in other advanced economies. So in fact, this is a very sophisticated network. It is a very sophisticated network which includes or links banks and financial institutions together in order to allow payments to be made instantly. At the moment, a wire transfer or payment between banks, interbank transfers might take 1 or 2 days. It depends. Although this is not bad in the past few years back, because my background is banking.
Yes.
The wire transfer, actually, the value date of a wire transfer could take at least 2 days, including the settlement. It offers actually a more convenient way for bank customers and for businesses to transfer funds instantly and pay, and all the purchases even instantly. And this is a very advanced step that the Central Bank of Egypt initiated. It would take the Central Bank of Egypt circulated these guidelines and requested the banks to be ready within 6 months to test the networks and the infrastructure.
Okay. What about
they have, and for this system to go live, it would take another 12 months. I mean, this means next year. By
no,
November.
next year. Next year is so very soon. So
it's by November next year.
Yeah.
The system should be up and running, and businesses and individuals would be allowed through mobile applications or through the website of the bank to transfer transfer funds, and these funds are transferred immediately, and the settlement also between the banks happens immediately.
What are the maximum amounts that are allowed in this system to be transferred or paid directly?
At the moment, the guidelines stipulates £50,000 per transaction. This is the maximum of a single transaction, or 50,000 for a single one transaction, or £60,000 in a day. It's a maximum daily limit.
So nobody can do
up to 5, 6, 7, a number of transactions. But the threshold or the ceiling for these transfers should not exceed 60,000
for a day. Meaning, you know, like
in a month. Yes, the limit is 200,000. Of course, this is the significance of these threshold amounts is sort of risk management, and also to avoid any attempt for money laundering or terrorism financing, because the small amounts, repeated transfers might go under the radar, skip the radar. So these are further controls to combat money laundering or terrorism financing.
Definitely. You know, a question occurs to me with the pros, of course, of this, these regulations are great, but are there any kind of cons concerning that? You know, we always look at the benefits. Can anything go wrong with the system itself, and can create trouble?
Well, nothing is 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
In every system, in every project, in anywhere.
We've seen hackers, you know, like creating problems.
The chances are almost nearing nil.
Yeah.
Because banks have firewalls. They have very sophisticated and strong antivirus or anti-hacking solutions that would make the chances to break these safeguards near to impossible. However, from operational perspectives, yes, anything could happen. Even when testing a new car, when testing a new machine, things could go wrong. But with the proper risk management, with the proper implementation of the guidelines, the chances would be almost zero or near to zero.
Okay.
So the central bank has given banks 6 months in order to make test on live cases or in test beds,
Yeah.
test environment to check any vulnerability
Yeah.
in the applications or in the transfers, and to deal with these, the outcome of small errors.
So the benefits of this system are greater than any kind of
I don't see any disadvantage. I see only
yeah.
benefits.
Okay, this is wonderful. Also, one last question, because we ran out of time. The banks have obligations to comply with the rules on instant payment system. A briefing on rules.
Maybe the as I mentioned, 6 months for banks to be ready,
Yeah.
and test the infrastructures and network, to put internal guidelines for the employees, operational standard operating procedures for the staff, to train their staff on the new system. Also, banks have to put the other internal controls and measures to avoid any possibilities for fraud or malfunctions.
Definitely. Well, Mr. Hany, Aboul Fotouh, thank you very much for being with us. It's always a pleasure
Pleasure.
having you. And hopefully, good news every time, like we meet, we're building on good news and things, get better, especially with mostly a lot of people, let's say, everybody will be vaccinated, and we won't really be facing the fear. And of course, with the news of medicine, for the COVID-19. So we hope, we end this scare of that, and, the world goes back to normal.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for being there. We'll see you again next week. As for now, God bless Egypt, God bless Egyptians, God bless our president, our army, our white army, and our police. And as we quote from the Holy Quran, ادخلوا مصر إن شاء الله آمنين, enter Egypt, God willing, safe. And Mubarak Sha'bi Misr, blessed be Egypt, my people, from the Holy Bible. I'm Nabi Nazim signing off. Goodbye for now.